Okay, moving on to some tips and tricks to help you out. There's this thing called appositives, and no, you do not need to know what they exactly are, and I will not explain them because I feel like it's just going to get more confusing. So, basic answer is that a noun followed by a pronoun means you do not need any punctuation at all. So let's look at this sentence. My teacher, Mr. Van, is cool. Your noun is going to be teacher, and the pronoun will be Mr. Van. And that's it. You do not need any punctuation after teacher and after Van. Let's look at this next question as well. Musician Grant Perez. Once again, you do not need any punctuation at all, so just like that, you know your answer will be A. That's it. Look for the one with no punctuation, and you'll be good. Okay, the next tip is that transition words will 99% of the time come before semicolons. So here, for example, which is the transition word, will come before the semicolon. In this question, the answer will be A. And the reason for this is because however comes before the semicolon. It's really just that simple. So whenever you have these types of questions, you can always just look at the answer choices and immediately find out. Moving on to some practice questions, before we even read this text, let's look at our answer choices to see if we can use any of those tips and tricks. First thing you notice in A right here, there's no punctuation, and let's be so free right now. I'm just quickly skim through all of this. There's one comma right there, and there's one period right there. There's no way there's no punctuation at all. I mean, that's just gonna be a huge run-on. So you can just get that out for sure. Next thing you know is there's a semicolon and a period. And if you remember, they mean the exact same thing. Just imagine this one has a period, and this one also has a period. And if they're both the exact same answer, you can't choose them both, which means they're both just gonna be wrong. So with that, your only answer left is B. How many seconds was that? Okay, that was apparently 4 to 5 seconds, but let's act like that was 10. Alright, boom, just like that, you did that in 10 seconds. But let's check it. So it says the correct answer, it should be a colon as a punctuation. And if you remember, the rule for colons, it's going to be an independent, okay, I'm a terrible typer. Independent clause followed by an explanation. So let's check real quick. This would be where your colon would go. Actually, I'm gonna just boom do that. Oh, right there. Colon. And let's check. Researchers, blah 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 blah. That's going to be your noun. And then they lent something. So that's going to be your verb. So that is an independent clause. Then right here, this would be an initiative. Let's act like that's initiative. So they lent their expertise of blah 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 to a new initiative. And then the initiative is the timeline of African American music. So that is an explanation on what the initiative is. So that checks out. There's an independent clause, there's an explanation, so a colon would work. So as you can see, you could solve the answer, solve the question by just looking at the answer choices, or you could also solve it out, write it out by hand like that. Next question. Let's look at our answer choices. Immediately you notice it's one of those, what was it, adjectives? Oh, I don't even remember. Anyways, it's where it's a noun followed by a pronoun, and you should know, no punctuation at all. So here, there's a comma. Here, there's a colon. Here, there's no punctuation. Boom, that's your answer. Just like that. Whenever you have a noun followed by a pronoun, you look for the answer with no punctuation. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, question number 3. First things first, look at our answer choices. First thing you notice, no punctuation. Already basically run on. Like, you already instantly know that's going to be a run on. Not once have I ever chosen the answer choice with no punctuation. So yeah, let's check the one comma right there, one comma right there, and one period. So yeah, it's basically pretty much a guaranteed run on. Next one, you'll see period right there, semicolon right there. They're the exact same thing, so you can get rid of both of those. So without even reading the passage, you could have just gotten the answer was B. For funsies, I'ma check. So remember, it's going to be independent clause, oh geez, and an explanation. Oh damn, okay. Anyways, so let's say our colon was right there. Located on the island of blah 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 blah, the city of Bisbee, that's going to be your noun. It was something, that's going to be your verb. It's a member of this alliance right here, and then after that colon, it says that alliance is whatever this league is, so that is going to be your explanation. So both of them check out, and your answer is B, which is a colon. Question number 4, let's look at our answer choices once again. You'll notice lines and blah blah blah. This is your noun and this is your pronoun, so we're just gonna look for the one with no punctuation. Right here, this has a comma, so that's a no-go. That one also has a comma. Oh, this one has two commas, so that's also a no-go. This one has a comma, so that's a no-go. This one has no punctuation, so your answer is D. Question number 5. Let's look at our answer choices. And unfortunately, we won't be able to eliminate any of them, so we do have to read the text. However, we don't need to read this whole blob of words. Instead, let's look at where our blank is, which is right here, and we're going to go to the start of the sentence. And everything before this point right here, which is all of this, can be ignored. We don't need to read any of that. Then, we're going to start finding independent clauses or complete sentences or a subject and a verb. So right here, the guide, that's going to be our noun or our subject, and then it grew, that's going to be our verb. Then let's look after the blank. It's Martin French eateries. Well, that's modest, oops. Well, the eateries, that's going to be the noun, and they were replaced. That's our verb. So we have two complete sentences, or two independent clauses, and there's only 3 ways to connect them. First way, of course, with a period. Second way, with a comma and a fanboy. And your third way is with a semicolon. Looking at our answer choices, only one of those match, which is C with a comma and a fanboy. Question number 6, and purchased from Ivy Books, and the quality is a little, but these aren't my questions, so I'm just sorry. Anyways, let's look at these answer choices, and none of them will be able to be eliminated, unfortunately. So we do have to read the text, so let's try and find some nouns and some verbs or independent clauses. A photograph, that's going to be our noun. Then we have taken, that's our verb. Then let's look after our blank. The image, that's our noun, and it contributes, that's our verb. So just like the past question, period, comma, fanboy, or semicolon, the only ways to connect these two independent clauses. And looking at our answer choices, only A has a period. Question number 7, let's look at our answer choices, and if you notice, this time it's going to be one of those questions with your transitions. So, if you remember the rule, your semicolon is always going to follow the transition. So, going through this, you have a comma here, so that's not it. You have nothing here, so that's not it. You have a comma here, so that's not it. And here, you have your semicolon, so D is your answer. Question number 8. Let's look at our answer choices. None of them can be eliminated, so let's move to our paragraph. So we have a study here. A study, that's our noun. And it was led, that's our verb. Then we're gonna skip all this babbling and we're gonna go past the blank. Blah 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 blah. Fertilizers, that's our noun, and the boost, that's a verb. So we have 2 complete sentences again. Period. Oh, purchase from Ivy Books, comma, and a fanboy, and a semicolon. We're looking at our answers, and only D has a period. Question number 9, and yeah, this one's definitely the worst out of all of them, so I'm sorry, but let's look at our answer choices. So, none of them will be able to be eliminated, and this one does look like a comma and, but there's actually a comma right here, so that's not gonna be able to be eliminated. Let's move to our text. San Juan High School and Grand Country High School, that is your noun, and they are something. Oh shoot, this line went too far. That's our verb. So they are 2 of several Utah schools out there on the hillside geoglyphs, and then we have an enormous geoglyph, that's going to be our noun, and it overlooks, that's going to be our verb. So we have 2 independent clauses again. The only way to connect them, period, comma, fanboy, and semicolon. Yeah, this is getting super repetitive, but you can see this is just how easy it is. And then right here, this is the only one with a period, so A is going to be our answer. Question number 10. Let's look at our answer choices. What is that? Is that a comma? Okay, well, none of these are able to be eliminated, so let's go to our text. What? Deposits matter, lend the sand, and orange. Okay, so these deposits of whatever are a noun, and they lend the sand, so that's a verb. And then they take a bit of sand home. It disturbs the beach's ecosystem. So it is going to be our noun, and disturbs is going to be our verb. So once again, we have two independent clauses. So we're gonna need a period, a semicolon, a comma, and a fanboy. And the only one with that is going to be D with our period. Question number 11. Let's look at our answer choices. Doesn't look like we can eliminate anything. Oh, besides A, which is a no punctuation, so it's a run-on, and I don't remember if I've been getting rid of these no punctuation ones, but I guess that's besides the point now. So let's move to our text. Our array diagram, that's a noun. River of use, that's a verb. The whole small size restricts, okay, that's a noun and a verb. And then light passing, that's also a noun and a verb. So the special thing about this question is that yes, there's two nouns and two verbs, but there's also a comma right here. So this comma means that all of this right here is a dependent clause. And if you remember, dependent clauses start with a no wobis and they end with that comma. So the answer is going to be B, since because isn't a wobis, so that's the only answer choice that actually starts with a no wobis. Okay, question number 12. So let's look at these answer choices. Oh, for the first time, there's a colon and a single dash. And if you remember, these two are the exact same thing. They have the exact same function. They can't both be right, so instead they're both wrong. Now, let's start looking at the text. So here's your blank. Let's go to the start of the sentence, and all of that before can be ignored. First things first, we have our noun. Then she is, that's our verb. Let's look after the blank, and you'll see there's only a verb here, which basically means there's not two independent clauses, so we're not going to be using a period, a comma, and a fanboy, or a semicolon. But if you looked at these two answer choices, you probably could have figured that out yourself. Instead, let's do some deep diving. So there, blah 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 blah, da 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 da. There's a comma right here, which basically means since you started with a comma, you're also going to need to close with a comma. So the answer is B. Just like that. And if you remember, if there's two commas in the middle of a sentence, that means it's a non-essential clause. So you can't get rid of all of it. So let's just say I did cross this all out. Would it still make sense? Because it should still make sense. And let's see. Conservation efforts that aim to bring adjutants back. So yes, the sentence still flows perfectly and still makes sense. So yay. Our answer is B. It started with a comma, it needs to close with a comma. Question number 13. Let's look at our answer choices, and it doesn't seem that there's anything we can get rid of. So let's look at our text. And there is two commas right here, and if you remember, that means it's a non-essential clause. So we can cross all of this extra information out. Now it's going to be a lot easier to find our noun and our verb. Theory is going to be our noun. Maintain, oh that's so low. Maintain is going to be our verb. Then skipping past our blank. If, did I just say if? It is a noun. Left is our verb. And then two independent clauses, which means we're going to use a comma and a fanboy, a period or a semicolon, and there's only one answer choice, which is B with the comma and a fanboy. Question number 14, and this one is going to be a little bit different. And the reason for this is because if we look at our answer choices, it's going to be a question where we have a transition word and a semicolon. So, following normal patterns, we would choose C, because the semicolon is after the transition word. But this is going to be a little bit special because we don't want the transition word to come before the semicolon. Instead, we want it to come after the semicolon. So our answer would be D. Now, before I try and start explaining anything, let's put this into perspective. So let's go back to number 7. Here, of course, our answer is going to be D because our semicolon is after the transition word. Like 99% of the time, it would be. And the reason for this is because this transition word can tie back to the sentence before. So this Canada, for example, it's going to tie back to the sentence before it. And let's just read it aloud to see if it makes sense. Photographer has reached audiences well beyond her home country. In 2011, her work was featured in Canada, for example. So first, the sentence before the transition word, it talks about how she reached audiences beyond her home country. And then the very next sentence, it says that her work was in Canada, for example. So that does make sense. Let's go back to question number 14 though. if we were to put in this, where our transition word is before the semicolon, there is no sense before it that it can tie back to because it's the very first sense. So basically what would happen is that it's going to tie back to the zero of sense, and the zero sense doesn't exist. To fix this, we're going to have to put it with the second sense, like that. And now it can tie back to something. Oh shoot, I can't find the comma. Okay, now it can tie back from the second sense to the first sense. And let's read it aloud just to check. So, to humans, it does not appear that the spider uses camouflage to capture its prey. Rather, the arachnid seems to it. So it's saying that it doesn't appear that the spider does this. Instead, it does this. So it does check out. So the moral of the story here is that if your transition word belongs to the very first sentence, you want the semicolon to come before. In all other cases, your semicolon will come after. Question number 15. Let's look at our answer choices. There's a semicolon right here and a period right here. They mean the same thing, so we can cross the both of those out. Let's look at our text now. Writing. Okay. Wait, Peter Rabbit? I love Peter Rabbit. Okay, anyways, they open with a comma right here, which means you also need to close with a comma. So the answer will be D. And once again, when has it ever been no punctuation? I don't think I chose a single no punctuation out of all 15 of these questions. So that was 15 punctuation questions. I'll link like 40 more in the description along with the answer key. So good luck practicing, and I hope you understood. And if you didn't, you can always ask me questions. I don't know why I'm still going. Okay, bye.